Hello everyone. How are you today this Friday afternoon? My name's Carl. Welcome to this presentation and this live question and answer session about teaching English in Southeast Asia. I'm here on behalf of the TEFL Org. Who are we? We help people around the world to become TEFL teachers. That's English as a foreign language teachers. We help train teachers up. We help them find jobs. On our website, TEFL.org, we've got loads of things to help you to become a TEFL teacher. So if that's why you're here, then please go onto our website and have a look at that after you've watched this webinar. As I said, my name's Carl and I am one of the tutors for the TEFL Org. So I help train teachers up in the practical courses that we offer. So maybe you'll see me one day, or maybe I've even trained you before in becoming a TEFL teacher. I have been very lucky enough to have taught in lots of places around the world. I've taught in China, Sri Lanka, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan. I've taught in Spain and Italy. So please let me know in the comments where you want to teach in the world. It's great to know who the people are watching and where they want to go. I can see some questions already coming in as well about teaching in Southeast Asia. So please say hello in the chat and let us know that you are there. So I'm going to talk today about teaching English in Southeast Asia. I've spent quite a bit of time in Southeast Asia as a tourist, but also as a teacher. I taught in Vietnam for quite a while. So please, if you've got any questions about teaching in Southeast Asia, please put them in the chat. I can see hello, all the hellos there. David wants to teach in Italy. Roxana is in Warsaw. Hello. Malini wants to go to Ho Chi Minh City. I love Ho Chi Minh City. I taught there. It's a fantastic place. Pazzle Face wants to teach in South Korea. South Korea tends to be seen as East Asia, so I'm not going to cover that today. We have done webinars on East Asia though. Southeast Asia is going to be the focus, and all the hellos are coming in. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. So if you've got questions about teaching in Southeast Asia, put them in the chat. But I'm happy to answer any questions at all about teaching English as a foreign language. So let's get going. And let me first of all bring up this presentation. I'm just going to talk through that. So why Southeast Asia is the first thing that I want to sort of cover. Why should you, if you're thinking about teaching abroad, go to Southeast Asia? First of all, it's a really enjoyable place to live and teach, I believe. It has a big variety of places you can go to. So it's not as easy as sort of saying one place is better than the other. It has a lot of different places to go. There's a big range of food. There's a big range of cities, beaches, countryside, mountains. It's a really, really enjoyable place to live, I think, and teach, because I feel that students really respect teachers there. That they really like to follow what teachers say to do. They can be quite active and quite opinionated. They can be quiet in some parts, but they can also be really sort of cultural aware and this kind of thing. So I think it's really enjoyable to place to live and teach. It has a blend of adventure. So you can, for example, I had an old Russian motorbike that I took up into the mountains in Vietnam, where I was the only sort of non-Asian person up there. I really felt like I was on an adventure. It has, beaches where there's hardly anyone on, to really crowded beaches, but it also has really big cities that are quite livable. They can be quite modern. They can also have a lot of comforts that you might want from your own country to sort of keep you going, but they can also be, really have real big districts that go to it that are really interesting to explore. So that's why I think it's a good place to get to. Can be hectic. If you want to live in a big, hectic place where there's lots going on, where there's lots of noise, you can find that in Southeast Asia. If you want to be quite relaxed and work in a place on the coast, by the sea, near a beach, you can also find that as well in lots of different places all around Southeast Asia. So good mix, okay? It's also really easy to travel around and see other places. So if you are if you're going there and you don't really want to just spend your time all in one country, it's a really easy place to get around. There's buses that go all over Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, for example. If you're in Singapore or Kuala Lumpur, there's really cheap flights to get around to lots of other places. So it's a very easy place to get all around. Okay. Just going to talk a little bit about the geography and the countries that I'm going to sort of cover in the next sort of 20 minutes of this presentation, and let you know what's going on. So it includes Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Laos, and Brunei. That tends to be the countries that are included in Southeast Asia. So they're the ones that I'm going to touch on today. Okay. So some of those, you'll see some I've grouped together, Philippines, Laos, and Brunei. That will become apparent towards the end. But the others I'm going to sort of talk about a little bit more individually. So first of all, I can see Angela, you're always asking, so you're not always asking, I've only just seen the question. You're asking, how do I get work there without a degree? So first of all, this section is going to be good for you, okay? Cambodia is the easiest place to get to without a degree, for sure, okay? It's the one that sort of advertises themselves as being available without a degree, okay? So definitely that's the place to think about. Cambodia is a beautiful country. It has a difficult history, but it's becoming really quite modern whilst also keeping these beautiful old temples. Angkor Wat is one of the places you need to go to best in the world. Okay, it's one of the favourite places I've ever been to in the world in Cambodia. So Cambodia is definitely the easiest place to get there. What I would do if I really wanted to go there, I would get online and I would contact schools that are already out there. So I would Google language schools Phnom Penh, language schools language schools Cambodia. I'd put that into Google and I would find what comes up and I would send them an email to see if they are advertising at the moment. Okay. You do also see adverts for Cambodian schools. It's not quite as apparent, they don't advertise lots and lots like you see jobs in Thailand or you see jobs in Vietnam, but you definitely do. If you go on eslcafe.com, do a search for Cambodia, for example. If you go on our website, TEFL.org, and you look in the job center, you will see jobs advertised in Cambodia there if you keep looking regularly. But what I would definitely do is sort of contact them and see. You may find that they want you to go over there and sort of they want you to be in country in order to find work there. That is one of the downsides of working in Cambodia. Because it's one of the poorer countries, they don't necessarily pay your flight up front. But if you contact the schools and say, look at me, I want to come and work with you, they will maybe help you out with things like that. Okay. Some other countries that you might see. So you will see adverts there. Come work in Thailand without a degree. Come work in Vietnam without a degree. Okay. For example. But you've got to be a bit careful about it because it tends to be that the legal status that you'll be on might be a little bit sort of on the line of correct or incorrect. They might want you to go over there as a tourist visa, and then once you're there, change to a work visa. What I would be really, really, really sure about is you check that if you see a job advertised out there and they're saying come without a degree, I would really want to know more about the terms and conditions of it. What will happen if you get found out and you're not on a valid work visa, for example, because you don't have a degree? If you're going to be on a tourist visa where you can work, if that's what they say is possible, you've really got to check this yourself. Who is going to pay the flights to go to another country in order to renew the visa? That kind of thing. I would really, really stop. I would really go with Cambodia first. If you see other ones advertised, I would really sort of check and look about those and see what the terms and conditions are of it. Okay. Sorry, I should have said Alan is monitoring the chat today. Alan, were there any questions there about degrees? Were any others about degrees? Yeah, please can you specify, are you talking about any university degree or specific degree? No, so, right, if you are basically any subject degree tends to be okay, all right? Doesn't have to be a degree in English teaching. I know people that are TEFL teachers with history degrees, with geography degrees, with engineering degrees, okay? In fact, for business English, they can sometimes want you to have a degree in business, for example, or business or economics, that kind of thing. Doesn't have to be in English language. However, what they tend to sometimes want to see, well, no, not what they want, but what they like to see is that your degree was in English, as in it was taught in English. Doesn't always have to be that, because you might be able to prove your English level if you're a non-native speaker by doing an IELTS test, for example. I'm going to get to that in a bit, but it could be any subjective degree. Doesn't have to be an English language, doesn't have to be a teaching degree. Okay. Roxana, does having a multiple degree, including a PhD, all right, Roxana, showing off, received in the UK and experience in teaching, make my chances for better placed paid jobs? Yep. So Roxana, what you could definitely go for there are the university jobs. So, for example, lots of universities, there's, for example, Reading University, they have a campus in Malaysia. They would really want, Reading University is a top university in the UK. They have built a campus in just outside Kuala Lumpur. They would love someone like you, Roxana, for sure. Okay, PhDs, everything like that, they would really just go for it. Other universities also have campuses. Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, for example, has a campus in Hanoi and a campus in Saigon. They would absolutely love and take you on. Okay. Thanks. I will keep going to questions as they come in. Right. So let's talk about with a degree. Obviously, without a degree or with a degree. So if you've got a degree, if you've got a 3-year degree in any subject, the first thing you need to do is get your 120-hour TEFL certificate. That, if you go on our website, tefl.org, you'll be able to find out more information on that. I also did a webinar about different types of TEFL certificates. Did that a few weeks ago. Look on the Facebook, YouTube page, you'll find that. Get your 120-hour TEFL certificate. Then, well done. Think of the country you want to go to. So do some research. Do you want to live in a really big modern city? Great. Singapore, Bangkok, probably the ways forward. Maybe Ho Chi Minh City. Do you want to go live on a beach? Okay, you might want to go teach in Da Nang or Borneo, for example, in Malaysia. So just think about the sort of things you want to go to and do some research yourself. You will probably, with a degree and a 120-hour certificate teaching, you'll have a good choice of locations you want to go to. So not just within a country, not just within Southeast Asia, but also within a country. Hanoi in the north of Vietnam is very different from Ho Chi Minh City in the south. Borneo is very different from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. You have a good choice of locations. What I would suggest to you is, if you've got the 120-hour certificate and you've got a degree, think about doing an add-on module in something like a Young Learners Extension module. This is something that, again, we have on our website. Okay, so that is something that you could, because a lot of teaching, if you want to get yourself in the door and you want to get yourself, you know, stand out a bit for jobs, a lot of the teaching is to young learners, especially in Thailand, and having something like that will hold you in good stead. Then maybe probably something like business English, maybe. A lot of business English is there, okay? If you're a non-native speaker, and I can see, Alan, were there some questions there about non-native speakers? I think they are. I'm going to try and get through them. Now, what I would say is Southeast Asia is easier to find work than East Asia. So, Kristen, thank you. Belgium, I'm not necessarily so sure about what the Belgium rules are if you've got a Belgian passport. Okay, but definitely Southeast Asia is easier to find work than China or Korea in East Asia. It is, okay. What I would suggest is be very flexible. Okay, don't have your heart set on one place if you're a non-native speaker. It's wrong that you'll see jobs advertised saying native speakers only. What you need to do is find out what is a native speaker? Okay. Look at the visa regulations for the country. So if you see a job advertised for for Vietnam, and it says native speakers only, go on, do some research and say, right, I've got a Belgian passport. Does that count to get a work visa for Vietnam? Yes, it does. Great. Okay, it does. Brilliant. You might then need to prove your English by taking an IELTS, a Trinity test, a Duolingo test, something like that. And you could say to them, look, my English is at native speaker level. I have a passport that is allowed on your visa regulations for your country. Can I apply? And they'll say yes, hopefully. But don't have your heart too set on one place. That's what I would say to you. Be a bit flexible, because you might just get a company that just for the wrong reasons wants to take on a native speaker and dismisses non-native speakers. Do you really want to work for that company? I'm not so sure. Think about going somewhere else if that's the case. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Thailand, first of all. Okay. There's usually a really good range of jobs in different locations in Thailand. Obviously, Thailand's quite hilly in the north, down to lovely beaches in the south. And there's also a big city of Bangkok and also lots of other cities in the middle. All right. So there's a good range of jobs. Cities, you might be teaching business English. Rurally, you might be teaching a bit more general English or young learner English. Okay, so good range of jobs. You'll see different types of jobs advertised in different locations. Check, is it the sort of place that you want to go to? However, for Thailand, a lot of work, the vast majority of work is advertised in country. So that means it's advertised to people that are already in Thailand. So I know a lot of people in Thailand who worked in Thailand, and what they do is they if they're in the UK, they find a job being advertised for Thailand, they apply for it, they get it, they then start with that job in Thailand. Maybe after a term, 2 terms of working for them, once they've got themselves settled, they then look within Thailand for other types of jobs. Okay, so that's what I would suggest you. Teachers in Thailand are really well respected. It's a nice little gig to be a teacher. Teachers are liked in Thailand. A lot of other countries, teachers aren't necessarily liked so much. Thailand, they really, really are. Okay. What I would suggest is check the rate of pay. If it seems low, it might be because actually the cost of living in that place is quite low. If you really, really want to go to Bangkok, and Thailand's a lot more places outside of Bangkok than just Bangkok. If there's a lot, think if Bangkok, have you got enough money to live in a big city on that rate of pay? Look at your lifestyle. Do you like to always eat out? Do you always like to go to lots of pubs? That can be expensive. If you're happy to live quite sort of like a local person, it's probably a good rate of pay. Okay. Vietnam. It's a big country with a lot of different locations and also a lot of different weather. You can get snow in the north of Vietnam. Down south, you can get really sort of tropical weather. Okay, so it's big. It's a big place, and Ho Chi Minh City is big, bustling, massive. Hanoi is still a big city, but it's more local. Has like a really nice city centre. Down the middle, you've got Hoi An, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world I've ever been to. So just have a little think yourself. What kind do you think would suit your personality the most? Big range of jobs in Vietnam. You'll see university jobs advertised where they just want you to come and teach academic English. You'll also see jobs advertised where you go teach kids. You'll also see jobs advertised in international language schools, that kind of thing. All right. Usually, and I think this is better than better than Thailand. Vietnam usually has, the jobs usually have good packages in terms of flights, in terms of accommodation, that kind of thing. So if you feel like you just want to have a job that's going to get you through the next couple of years, year and a half, whatever it might be, Vietnam might be the better way for that in order to get you there nice and smoothly and get everything sorted out. If you're a bit more of a risk taker and you want to sort of try and work your way to be self-employed and have different types of jobs and get more money coming in, maybe Thailand's better for you. All right. Vietnam is an amazing place to see, and it's generally quite cheap to live. If you're happy to eat locally, it's quite cheap. It's if you're happy to get on the big, slow, plodding trains, it's quite cheap to move around. Okay, lots of bus routes, that kind of thing. Get yourself a cheap motorbike. Love it. That's what I think about Vietnam. I would go back to Vietnam tomorrow. Myanmar, Burma. So Burma's obviously had a lot of issues in the last few years, and at the moment there's not a lot of jobs being advertised there. But before that, it was opening up and it was advertising a lot. And I do believe in time it will come back. So if you're sort of thinking about, I want to go away in a year, 18 months, if you see some jobs advertised in Burma, you might like it. It's supposed to be beautiful. I've never been. But most people I know that have been there just love it and think it's absolutely fantastic. Okay. Singapore, I'm just going to rattle through them because I can see there's so many questions coming in that I'm going to get to really soon. Okay. Singapore. It's not one that is advertised a lot. You do see some adverts for Singapore, but because there's a lot of people that live in Singapore for sure, but it's not population wise as big as Thailand and as big as Vietnam. Okay, so you don't see as many jobs being advertised there. You do see some, but you don't see it advertised a lot. A lot of people I know, they sort of do some searching themselves who've gone to talk in Singapore. So again, they've got on Google and they found the universities that are there. They find like the language schools that are there. They also find the international schools. There's a lot of international schools teaching the international kids there, which you might be able to get involved with. They look at that. They then send them. They look on that website, see if they're advertised. Okay. It's a great place, Singapore. I think there's better places in Southeast Asia myself, but it is a fun place to live. It's, clean. It works well. It's, it's a nice, easy place to live. It's not cheap. So just, again, check your level of income and think about that yourself. It is a brilliant place to see other parts of Asia because you can get very cheap flights from Singapore airport. So if you feel like, do you know what, I just want to just get my head down and work, and then at the end of the term I want to go crazy and I want to travel somewhere else, Singapore is a great place for that because you can save up a bit of money if you can live cheaply because wages are generally quite high, and then at the end of the term scoot off somewhere. Okay. Malaysia. So you tend to see adverts advertised for Kuala Lumpur, which is on just below Thailand and above Singapore. Big, massive city. And then you see adverts for different parts of Borneo. Kuala Lumpur, I think, is a great city. I prefer it to Singapore myself. Very multicultural, fun, lots going on. Bit cheaper than Singapore. It's very easy to get up to Thailand from Kuala Lumpur. It's easy to get down to Singapore from Kuala Lumpur. So I think it's a great city. Borneo is poorer. So you'll see the jobs that are paid less in Borneo. But it's amazing in terms of the beaches that are there and in terms of the jungle and the wildlife you can see. So it's very, very different. So again, have a think yourself. What do I really want to do? All right. It's not on everyone's radar, Malaysia. When people go to Southeast Asia, they sort of think about Thailand, Vietnam. Kuala Lumpur might be a different option for you if you could be a bit more picky. If you see a job, actually, do you know what? I only want to teach adults. You might be able to get that more in Kuala Lumpur than in Thailand or Vietnam, where you might have to teach a lot of different classes. Okay. Indonesia has had a bit of upheaval recently in terms of the natural disasters that were there. So that has sort of put a dampener on some of the more rural jobs. But I often see jobs advertised in Jakarta. Might be something that's worth thinking about. Big, massive, huge city. Everyone I know that goes there thinks it's great. Really, really likes it. It is quite different from the rest of Southeast Asia in terms of it's not like got the tourist routes that go through it, like Thailand and Vietnam, that kind of thing. All right. So if you want maybe to have a less touristy experience, Indonesia, Jakarta might be the one for you. Again, it's not on everyone's radar, so there might be more options. There might be less competition for jobs, that kind of thing. All right. You might see a better package with better accommodation. Okay. Just some other places to think about before I get to your questions. Brunei, really not thought of at all, I think. It probably has the best paid jobs of the whole region. I've seen jobs advertised there for sort of $5,000 a month pay, which is, pretty good. I'd go work for that. I think if you're going after the money, Brunei might be somewhere to look at. But it can be quite restrictive in terms of the local customs, alcohol drinking, that kind of thing. So just be a bit aware if that suits you or not, if you're happy with that. Okay. Laos, which is up near Vietnam on border with China. You hardly ever see jobs advertised there. Hardly ever. Why? Because it's quite poor, is the truth, to be honest. And there's not a lot of money there. So they can't tend to afford to pay for people to fly out there and that kind of thing. There's work there if you're there. So if you sort of, after you've been to Thailand, after you've been to Vietnam, you think, do you know what, I still love Southeast Asia, but I want to try somewhere else. Laos could be somewhere for you. And the Philippines is probably the last one on the list. And there's a lot of competition for jobs from local teachers in the Philippines. Lots of people in the Philippines speak really good English. There's lots of Filipino teachers around the world. So it can be a bit difficult to find work in the Philippines. Okay. Good. Right, that's the end of my presentation, and I'm going to get to all of these amazing questions. I hope you're still with me. Please, if you liked the presentation, if you learned anything, if you want to know anything more, please put it in the chat so we can know, myself and Alan, that you enjoyed it. So I think going all the way back, Jennifer, hello. Hope you're still with us. Right, short-term contracts. So this question we get asked quite a lot. Short-term contracts teaching, it depends what you declare as short-term. You do see jobs advertised where come work with us for 6 months. Companies tend to want you to stay for at least 2 terms. A term tends to be 3 months. I've not, apart from once I got my master's and I'd been teaching for sort of 15 years and I could be quite picky and I've had different sort of qualifications. I've not seen jobs advertised for less than 3 months for a long time. Okay. Even before COVID, it was difficult. I've had jobs for a month, but they're really, really far between. And I've not had a month contract for many years now. They tend to want you to go for 3, 6, 12 months. Now, voluntary work is different. Voluntary work, they'll probably happily take you for a month, 2 months. But you would have to, sometimes a lot of that is you've got to, you need a bit of money yourself to get yourself up and going. So you've got to be really sure about what are they going to provide for that month and 2 months. It could be that they just provide the accommodation. You've got to provide everything else. Fine. If you're happy with that, Jennifer, go for it. But there are options. You would need to do the work yourself. Go on our website. We sometimes do advertise things like internships, that kind of thing. So that might be worth having a look at, Jennifer. Kitty, can you start teaching mid-academic year? Yeah. So what schools all around the world tend to want you to do is to come at the start of a term. They don't really care whether that's the start of an academic year, as long as you're the start of a term. So for example, when I first worked in Vietnam, I turned up in February. The academic year started in November. They happily took me on then. Right, so to do one semester, what schools want you to do very often, especially if they're paying for your flights and your accommodation. So Kitty, if you're not in Vietnam or Thailand and you're looking to go out there, if they're like, yes, Kitty, come, please, we want you. We will pay your flights. We will pay some of your accommodation, for example. Great. but they will make you sign for 12 months because they've paid your flights. They really wouldn't pay your flights and your insurance and your visa costs for you to come out and just work one term. But what you can tend to do is say to them, well, look, if I don't like it after a term, I'm going to pay everything back. They might be happy with that, but they might also see that as a negative and not take you on. Tends to be a year that people want you to work for. Okay. Quicker. Yes, Ben, hello. Can you say more about getting around via public transport? How are the trains? How is the affordability when compared with salary? So, obviously flights are expensive, the most expensive, but there are low cost options in Southeast Asia. It really depends where you are, Ben. That's what I'd say. In Vietnam, I had a motorbike and I drove around myself. And most people I know either rented or bought a motorbike. In Thailand, in Bangkok, there's really good public transport. They've got, loads of trains all over the place. Tuk-tuks, that kind of thing. People get on that all the time. Singapore, you would use public transport. Cambodia, you would use like taxis, that kind of thing. So it really does. The affordability is good compared with salary. Trains are the long distance depends. Are you happy? Do you want to go in a first class sleeper carriage? Can be quite expensive with all the other backpacker tourists. If you're happy to rattle along with the locals in the third class, really quite cheap. So it does really totally depend on you, Ben. But I have never met a TEFL teacher in Southeast Asia that's not been able to afford to get around and see things. If they can't, then they're spending way too much money in the local pub, I reckon, Ben. Okay, hope that answered your question. Pazzle, hello. If you have a PhD in English, would you need to do a TEFL course? Yes. So what a TEFL course does, like the ones we offer, is teaches you how to be a teacher. It trains you how to be a teacher. A PhD won't let you do that. A PhD makes you an expert in whatever subject your PhD's in. Does that mean you can then go teach English? Might mean that if you've got your PhD in English grammar, woohoo, happy days. But you need to be able to prove that you're going to be a good teacher in the classroom. A TEFL course does that. A PhD doesn't do that. Hope that answers your question, Puzzleface. Great name. Bubbly Cookie. The names are brilliant today. What qualification would you recommend for teaching in each respective education establishment? What's needed for primary school teaching abroad, high school, university? Are classes aged base? Right. So a TEFL certificate. So let's forget about the degree, no degree. Let's sort of say that you've got a degree. All right. On top of that, a TEFL certificate, 120-hour TEFL certificate, will allow you to teach in a primary school, a high school, and a university. Okay. There will be, though, some specialist knowledge that you either the school thinks you should have before you come, or the university, high school, primary school is happy for you to learn once you're there. So, for example, when I went, my first job abroad was teaching in a university, teaching academic English. They did not expect me to know how to teach academic English. They were happy for me to just come with my degree and my TEFL certificate. Okay? And then when I was there, I taught myself academic English. I then have worked in, my first job teaching primary school children was in Sri Lanka. What they expected me to have was something called a young learner extension. So that is like an add-on module to your TEFL certificate. So I did that basically. And that taught me the differences between teaching kids and teaching adults. Okay. And then same with high school, really. It tends to fall under young learners. Right. Classes age-based depending on the school and the number of students that school has. So obviously if you go into work into a local primary school, you'll be teaching 5-year-olds in one class. Then you'll be teaching 7-year-olds in another class and 10-year-olds in another class. High school as well. 11-year-olds that day, 14-year-olds that day, whatever it might be. Okay. A language school tends to divide up the classes in terms of like a 3-year band. So you might be teaching 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, maybe 7-year-olds, probably 5 and 6. But then you might in a different class be teaching 7, 8 and 9-year-olds. Then you might be teaching 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Then you might be teaching 14, 15, 16-year-olds. So they tend to be divided up by age like that in a language school, whereas a primary school and a high school will sort of divide them up by the year groups. I hope that answers your question, Bubbly. Ben, hello. Is there a large demand for university level TEFL teachers, or is most of the demand for schools? So, right. The biggest demand that you will see advertised is for teaching kids. How old is a kid? 5 years old? Is a kid 14-year-old? I don't know. That tends to be the most jobs you see advertised for kids. However, I'd say after that, the next largest is university classes. So that works in a university class is very different. You might, for example, a university might take you on and they'll say, look, here is a class of engineering students. We just want them to learn basic English for 2 hours a week. And you might have 10 classes of engineering students and you just teach them very basic level English. But you might also have university classes where, look, these guys are our English language majors. They're here to learn English language. And you might teach them full time. You might teach them how to write essays, do academic research, write executive summaries, this kind of thing. Write bibliographies. That's academic teaching. So university teaching is quite big and there's lots of different types within them. There's also different levels within it. Okay. Hope that answers your question, Ben. Gary, or Steve, sorry, Steve. Hello, y'all. You're I in Vietnam. Good place to I. And hope to go this year. You've been speaking English since a child. Okay. Right. So different. Can I be considered native? I should have read that out. Recruiters, right. First of all, it tends to be what passport you have is your native. So if you're waving around a British or American passport, Australian, New Zealand, Irish, something like that, other English native speaking countries are available. If you tend to wave around that, they sort of tend to just say, yes, you're native. Is that right? I don't know. The next thing they tend to look at is, where did you learn your high school or your university qualifications? Did you learn it in an English speaking school? You did? Great. Your native level tends to be. You can't, if you don't fall for those two, the next one that might declare whether you're a native speaker or not is your level of English. So you might say to a school, look, I didn't do a degree at an English language university. I didn't do my high school certificate in an English speaking country. But look, I've got IELTS 8.5. Look at my certificate. Great. They might do you as a native speaker. So really, you got to, if you see a job, and I would declare you as native. All right. I would just go for it if I was you, Steve. But it's worth asking the job that you see advertised what they declare as native. Okay. Gary, would they want us to speak some level of the native language? No, not at all. I have lived in 16, 17 countries full time. I barely speak Japanese out of all of those well. All the rest, I'm terrible. Vietnam, after 15 months, all I got was being able to direct a taxi driver left or right. Left or right. That's as far as I got. In fact, a lot of schools, they don't like you speaking the local language because they're worried that you're just going to go in there and practice your Vietnamese or practice your Thai or practice your Khmer. Okay, so you really don't need to, Gary. Steve answered your question. Matthew, Oh, interesting, that one. You said that culturally there's more respect for teachers. Is there a certain style of teaching that resonates more? No, I don't think there's a style that resonates more as expected. They'd like you to be friendly. What they like to, and this is something that we would teach you a lot on our course, if you do one of our TEFL courses, is they really want you to get the students speaking. They don't want it to be a lecture where you're standing in front of a board just regurgitating stuff. They want you in the classroom getting the students to communicate. And that's not what happens generally at their primary schools or high schools. So what they do is they recruit someone like you or me, Matthew, to go in there and get the students actually speaking and communicating. That is the style they want. What I would say is that they do respect a formal war. They like a tie, they like a shirt, they like suit trousers, that kind of thing in Southeast Asia. Okay. Jerin, are the chances for Indians less to become? I don't think they're less, Jerin, not necessarily. I think, like I said in the presentation, you need to sort of work out where India can go in all of those countries, which ones are good. I don't know which ones Indians naturally go with the visa regulations, okay? So I would just have a look at that yourself. I would contact, if you see a job you like the look of, contact them and see. Okay, that's what I would say. Kitty, academic English, I kind of explained it a bit, but basically it's getting students to a level where they can write an academic English essay. So they can write, for example, a master's thesis. They could write an undergraduate dissertation. They can write a summary of an article. They can deliver a presentation in about a specific academic subject, using the correct conventions such as referencing, bibliographies, contents, all that kind of thing. That tends to be academic English. It's also called EAP. There's lots of work in the UK for EAP teachers. School of Singers. What an amazing name. I'm going to go check you out on YouTube after this, School of Singers. What if you are over 50 and have a child you home educate? Well, first of all, over 50, not an issue. There are visa regulations once you get to the top end of 50. So I don't know how old over 50 is. And then into your 60s can be an issue. But every country's different. Worth looking, School of Singers, to see. Right. Child you home educate. So a lot of companies will take on people with their kids. And you'll see jobs advertised where they pay the kids' flights. You will also see jobs advertised where they refuse to pay the kids' flights and you have to pay that yourself. That kind of thing. Right, the home educate, I'm not quite sure what that means in terms of what times do you need to be with the kid. I'm guessing you'd need to be with them during the daytime. Who's going to look after them in the evening? That kind of thing. That's some of the questions that I would expect to be asked in the interview, and you would need to know that. I would not expect the language school or the university to help you out much with that, School of Singers. I would expect that they would really want you to sort that kind of thing out. Okay. Mana, which country gets the least amount of rain? You hate the rain? Well, I'm in Northern Ireland. I'm in Ireland, Mana. We never rains in Ireland. Come to Ireland. Alan's in Scotland. It never rains in Scotland. Go up to Scotland. Right, in Southeast Asia, you get really lovely weather, and then you get massive downpours, which I think are amazing, and I love them. Probably the best part is not so close to the tropics, so you're a little bit further away. So probably somewhere between Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi probably gets the least amount of rain, but I'm not a weatherman. Okay. Holly, you plan to volunteer in some schools in Southeast Asia before? Why? Before. Will volunteer because it's valuable experience by future employers in schools? Yes, is a short answer. Yes. However, some schools only take the experience after you've done a TEFL certificate. Why? Because how do they know that you were a good teacher if you were teaching before you were trained how to be a teacher? So I could say, yeah, do you know what? I was off teaching for the last year. And they go, oh, great. Okay. What did you learn on your TEFL course? Well, I haven't done my TEFL course yet. Oh, so how do you know you were teaching well? Oh, the students love me. Okay, but how do you know that you were teaching them well? They tend to want post-certificate experience. Now, Holly, if I was taking on someone and somebody had volunteering experience and another person had no volunteering experience and they also had the same level of qualifications, I'd probably take on the person who had the volunteering experience. But if that experience came after being qualified, I would much prefer it. Hope that answers your question. Melanie, in Vietnam, do you get paid to your British bank account or do you have to open an account in Saigon? Yes, you do not get the jobs where you get paid into your British bank account are very far between and have really gone in the last 10 years. So, however, it's very easy to transfer money. I used to transfer money from Vietnam to my British bank account all the time. I'd wait for it to build up a bit in my local Vietnamese account, then transfer it back. And I think you got another question, haven't you, Melanie? Yes. Also, Singapore picky with teacher with no experience. So Singapore is one of the places where they can ask for more qualifications and they can ask for more experience compared to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, for sure. Why? Because they pay a bit more. Also, people really want to go and live there and there's not as many jobs there because it's just a smaller country. So they can be a bit picky. That doesn't mean you need to have experience, Melanie. You might see jobs advertised. What I always say is if you see a job advertised that you want to go for it and that looks a perfect job for you, just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? You get rejected, apply for another one. That's what I would say. Kitty, did I miss your question? Can you work in state schools in Thailand and Vietnam? That's an interesting question. So quite often, it tends to be no is a short answer to that. But some language schools you go and work for might have a contract with a local state school that you go in and talk. So, you might find that you get a job at a language school in Bangkok. That language school has a contract to put somebody into a local state school or primary school. So you might go there for 2-3 years. But probably to actually go in and work as a full-time teacher in a local, not an international, a local state school is quite difficult to do. They would probably expect you to speak Thai and Vietnamese to a high level, I'm guessing. Vivian, thank you very much. BMW Nomad. Yeah, someone does need to say that, Alan. You need to tell me that more. BMW Nomad, yearly contracts. Yeah, so they would expect you to work there for a year, if that's what you mean, BMW. They just do because they're putting a lot of effort in to recruit you. They're helping you with the visa. They're helping you with injections maybe that you need. I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about other injections. They'll help you with visa costs. They'll help you with health insurance. They'll pay for your flights. They're not going to do all of that and then you're gone after 2 weeks. Yeah. Karen, after TEFL, along with qualified teacher status in Scotland, okay, what master's level qualification would I suggest? So, well, master's, interesting. Do you want to be a TEFL teacher, Karen? If you want to be a TEFL teacher, and you've already got your TEFL certificate, I'd look at doing something like a level 5 certificate with someone like us. That's like an advanced level TEFL certificate. Have a look on our website, TEFL.org. You'll find the things on there. Look at our advanced levels. Okay. If you really want to do a master's, a full-on proper master's, you can do masters in TEFL. You can also do something called a Delta, a DELTA. Might be worth, but I would start by looking at our advanced level courses. They're at a high level. Okay, that's what I would start by looking at, Karen. Puzzle Face, does TEFL Org help you get a job? Yes. So if you do one of our courses, you get access to our job center, and we will. So you have bought one of our courses. Brilliant, Puzzle Face. We will help you to apply for those jobs for sure. But you can also apply for other jobs that you don't see on our website with our certificate. Okay. Get up, enjoy life. All right. Try my best. I've only got about 5 more minutes. I'm trying my best to get through all these questions. You've got a degree and did your 120 hours TEFL, not had the chance to gain teaching experience. How important for experience? So you'll see jobs there where most jobs advertise for experience. When I was running language schools, I always put in the adverts that I put up looking for a TEFL teacher with experience. Why? Because you want to take on a teacher with experience. It's just easier as a recruiter to do it. But I also looked at the ones without experience, and I thought, actually, do you know what? That's quite a good application. Let's give them an interview. So just because you see experience doesn't mean you have to have it. Get up, enjoy life, and get up and apply for a job that you think you could do. Don't worry too much about experience. That's what I would suggest you do. Roxana, if you wanted to take a position in Southeast Asia and wanted to make savings, you wanted to save money, well, I think all of those regions, you can save money. I would say wherever you live in the world, everywhere I've ever lived in the world, I've saved money. Now, there's countries where I can save more, and that's because I tend to get paid more and I tend to not spend so much. So, for example, when I lived in Iraq, I saved a load of money. I didn't spend much. I bought a house deposit out of that. Southeast Asia, that's just me going off on a tangent there. Southeast Asia, Brunei, Roxana. Yeah, I don't even know why I even went on the Iraq tangent. You want to save money, you want to live in Southeast Asia, go to Brunei or go to Singapore. Quekurt, hello. Do I need a TEFL course if you have a university teaching qualification? So if you've got something like a PGCE, that will allow you to go work as an international primary school and international high school. However, within that, you will probably be teaching English as a foreign language. And that school may or may not want you to also have a TEFL certificate. With this, you can open a lot of doors. With this, plus a TEFL certificate, you can open up even more doors. That's what I would say to you. Okay. Course books. Generally, you get given the course books and you get the lessons yourself. Fatima, what's the difference between Vietnam and Cambodia? About 1,000 miles between capital cities, I think. Vietnam, there's loads of jobs available at academic level. Cambodia, slightly less because there's less universities in Cambodia. Really different in terms of cultures. Very different, Fatima. You know, Vietnam's much longer. Cambodia's more centralized, not as many people. They're really quite different. You need to sort of look at what might suit you more. You want to work in the University of Vietnam, I'd look at. Okay. Zachary, lovely question. One of my favourite topics. Doesn't get asked a lot, Zachary. A question not specific to Southeast Asia, but in your opinion, what do the prospects of advancement and establishing a long-term career look like teaching? There's really good prospects teaching abroad. I've done webinars. Look on this page, look on YouTube for webinars on this topic, a TEFL career. I've been teaching 20 odd years. I'm not going to stop. You can get into teacher training. You can get into examining. You can get into course book writing. You can get into test writing. You can get in the structures of managing a language school, owning your own language school, doing the marketing for a language school. There's loads of stuff out there, Zachary. People think, oh, do you know what? It's only something you do for a year. Fine. Come do it for a year if you only want to do it for a year. You want a career? You can make a career out of TEFL. You're not going to be mega rich, but you can make a career out of TEFL. Jennifer, how do you communicate with absolutely no language of the country at all? We teach you how to do that. If you take one of our courses, we will show you how it is. Trust me, it works. I do not speak any other language well at all except English, and I'm questionable at that. You just start with the lower levels, you start and you just build it up with simple vocabulary. With the higher levels, you take what they've already got and you add to it. There we go. I'm just running out. Marina, the non-native, yes, you can. Yeah, I just went through that a bit. Aisha, any platform where you can teach as a volunteer? Look at there's a website. What's it called? Refunet. 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 Put that into Google. You'll find work. Also look around you. There will be people locally who want to learn English. India passport. I think you've sort of got to go and do your own sort of research on that and work out which is best for India. Right. Last question. I think is that the last question, Gary? With places that offer accommodation, is it usually that they provide a specific residence you have to stay? Right. So either or, Gary. So I've worked in places where they've told you this is the flat you have to live in. I've been fine with that. I've also worked in places where they've gone, we're going to give you $500 a month. You've got to find your own rent. You've got to find your own accommodation. I've also been happy with that. Something to ask in the interview, something to ask in the email conversation you're going to have. Okay. Some people like to choose it. It can be quite difficult to find a place to stay in a foreign country. It really can. Vietnam, I found it quite difficult. Just something to think about. Okay. I think that's the last question, was it? Yes, I think it was. Thank you very much for listening. Please, if you've got any other questions about teaching in Southeast Asia, please put them in the chat. We'll get around to them. Or message us. If you go to our Facebook page, click on the messenger, send us a message. We will reply to all our messages. Sorry. Go to our website. In the bottom right corner, TEFL.org. Bottom right corner, there's a chat with us function. Click on that. Send us a message. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a nice weekend. Please join us for more in the future. Please put into the chat if you liked this. Please put into the chat if you didn't like it. We love feedback. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.